Okay, so we've done all this work with inequalities. We've solved inequality equations and all of that. The next thing we need to look at is how we graph inequalities. And again, it's going to be very similar to how we graph equations, that y equals mx plus b format. But instead of that equal sign, again, we're just going to have these inequality symbols. So, to just kind of review some basics of the equations, we're going to check in the first two problems whether those are answers to the equations. And then the last one, you're going to pull out the slope and y-intercept. So take a few minutes, try the warm-up. Once you have it done, turn the video back on and I'll go over the answers. So in the first one, we're going to plug the ordered pair in for x and y, with 2 being x and y being -1. So 2 plus 2 times -1 needs to give me 4. 2 plus -2 needs to give me 4. 0 does not equal 4, so the first one is not a solution. Second one, same thing. I'm going to come up top here so I have a little more room. So 4 times 7 plus 3 times -2 needs to equal 22. 4 times 7 is 28, plus -6 needs to equal 22. 22 does in fact, my brain is thinking faster than my mouth. 22 does in fact equal 22. I have no idea how this is writing now. But that would be, yes, this is a true solution. Well, let's see if it gets back to normal on the last one. In this third problem down here, no, that's really weird. Let me switch to a different color and see if it works. I need to get this in slope-intercept form, so I need to get the y by itself. Because it is a -2x, I'm going to add positive 2x to each side. So y equals positive 2x plus 4. Now that's in slope-intercept form, I can pull out my slope of 2, and I can pull out my b value, or my y-intercept, at 0, 4. So again, today we're going to look at graphing these linear inequalities. We are going to, in class, we're going to be looking at a piece that uses your graphing calculator. I will talk you through when we get to that slide how to plug it into your graphing calculator, but unfortunately, there's no way for me to show you a graphing calculator and what buttons I'm pressing and all of that. But I will talk you through it as best I can when we get to that page. So just like when we were solving equations, graphing linear equations, the first thing we're going to do is check which ordered pair is the solution. And you can even do this in your head if you want, or if you want to write it out, you certainly can. So for this first one, 0 plus -3 times 0 needs to be less than 6. Well, -3 times 0 is 0. 0 plus 0 is 0. 0 needs to be less than 6. That is true. We're looking for the one that does not work. So 6 plus -3 times -1 needs to be less than 6. -3 times -1 is positive 3. Positive 3. I'm sorry, for whatever reason, things are jumping all around on me. So back to this, we get 9 when we look at the left-hand side. That needs to be smaller than 6. That is not true. So right now we believe the second problem is the one that is not a solution. But you always need to check the remainder of the problems as well. So 10 plus -3 times 3 needs to be smaller than 6. That's going to give me 1, which is in fact smaller than 6. Plugging in -1, -1 plus 3 times -3 times 2 needs to be smaller than 6. That is going to give me -7, which is in fact smaller than 6. So 6 and -1 is our one that is not a solution. I have 3 of these I want you to try. All you're telling me is yes, it is a solution, or no, it is not a solution. That's all we're looking at. So in the first one, I'm going to plug 14 in. So 14 plus -1 times 9 needs to be greater than 8. 14 plus -9 is going to give me 5. That is not greater than 8, so that is not a solution. 1.2 times 3. For some reason it wasn't recording. In this particular example, you'll notice that our line is not in slope-intercept form. So the first thing we need to do is get it into slope-intercept form. So I'm going to add -1x to each side. So 2y is going to be less than or equal to -1x plus 0. We're going to divide everything by 2. So y is going to be less than or equal to -1/2 plus 0. So my slope is going to be -1/2, and my y-intercept will be at the point 0, 0. So graphing it, starting at 0, 0, it is going to be a solid line this time because we are less than or equal to. But my slope is negative, so I'm coming down 1 and right 2, down 1 and over 2. 3 points. You can certainly draw more if you'd like. Draw your line. With inequalities, you actually want to take your line to the edges of the graph. Still remember your arrowheads, but extend that line nice and long across the graph. This time I cannot plug 0, 0 in because 0, 0 is actually on my line. It's actually my y-intercept in this case. So you can pick any other point that you like. I like +1, +1. Again, small numbers, they're both positive. So 1 plus 2 times 1 needs to be less than or equal to 0. So 1 plus 2 needs to be less than or equal to 0. 3 needs to be less than or equal to 0. That is false. 3 is not smaller than 0. Because that is a false statement, I am going to color on the side opposite 1, 1. So 1, 1 is not an answer, so I don't want to color it in. I want to shade in where 1, 1 is not. So here I have 2 that I want you to try and graph. You need to get both of them in slope-intercept form. Find your M, find your B, graph it, and shade. So in this first problem, when I get it into slope-intercept form, I should end up with y being greater than or equal to -1/3 x, 1/3 x plus -1. So my y-intercept is at -1. My slope is down 1 over 3. It is going to be a solid line. And when I plug in 0, 0 to shade, I end up with 0 plus 0 being greater than or equal to 1. 0 is in fact greater than -1, so I would shade above the line. In the second problem, when I write this in slope-intercept form, I get y equaling -1/4 x plus -8. So I'm going to start at -8. My slope is -1/4, so down 1 and right 4. I'm now out of room. Well, I guess I could go down 1 and over 4 again. So down 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. This one is going to be a dotted line or a dashed line. Plugging in 0, 0 again. 0 plus 0 needs to be less than negative 8. 0 is not less than negative 8. So we would be coloring in the small triangle underneath the line or on the bottom of the line. Just like when we were graphing lines, we looked at, we looked at horizontal and vertical lines. Same thing here. Remember that y equaling a number is going to give you a horizontal line. So this is going to be a horizontal line through negative 3. It will be a solid line because it is greater than or equal to. Still going to plug in 0, 0. So I end up with 0 being greater than negative 3. 0 is larger than negative 3, so I color in the top half of the graph. Second one, x being negative 1, that's going to be a vertical line. It's going to be a dashed line because it is less than. 0 is not less than 1. So we're going to be shading where the point 0, 0 does not fall. The last example to look at today deals with the graphing with technology, which I talked about earlier in the lesson. So basically on the graphing calculators, you have that y equals button. So you're going to hit that y equals button. It's going to bring you up a whole bunch of y equals spots where you can type in lines. But this time we don't want equals, we want inequality symbols. So if you look down at the very bottom of your screen, you should see inequality symbols that appeared on the bottom. So using your left and right arrows, go left or right so that the equal sign is black or blinking, that your cursor is on that equal sign. Once the cursor is on the equal sign, you're going to hit alpha, the green alpha button, and then whatever key right underneath the screen matches up with the inequality symbol that you want. And then that should change that equal sign to an inequality symbol. You then need to move your cursor one spot to the right to get back where you can actually type, and you would just type in that 4x minus 3. Hit graph. These do take the calculator a little bit longer to think about, so give it some time. But you should see a line drawn and you should see shading that matches it. Second problem is exactly the same thing. You just have to get it into slope-intercept form first. So y is greater than or equal to negative 1/3 x plus negative 1/3 for my y-intercept. The graphing is very nice. What I would highly recommend you do is I would solve all of the problems on your homework paper. Either do all of them and then go back and check, or do one and check and whatever. But get used to plugging it.
Could Haley McDermott please come to the office? Haley McDermott to the office. Thank you.
But get used to actually plugging it in the calculator as well, and making sure that your hand-drawn picture closely matches the picture that you're getting on the calculator screen. Homework tonight is going to be a worksheet, because you guys don't have a workbook, so it's going to be a worksheet. If you have any questions on any of this, as always, please make sure that you let me know.